Hey everybody, what is going on? It is Rob from Crypto Bob, and on today's episode, we are talking about some pretty major runs with Neo, formerly Ant Shares, OmiseGO, OMG, as well as Civic making a big move up the charts pretty much over the past 12 hours. While you were sleeping, if you're on the East Coast here in the U.S., might have been right during the day. If you're out on the other side of the world. Outside of that, outside of some market movements that we're going to cover, we're also getting into advice that Goldman Sachs is giving to its clients on Bitcoin, on cryptocurrency, on Ethereum. What is Ethereum and what they're talking about, what Goldman is telling their clients. And then also, the one of the biggest companies in the world, Amazon, is hiring blockchain engineers, or a blockchain engineer looking for somebody with a background in Ethereum or a number of other technologies. So let's talk about that as well. If you haven't yet subscribed to this YouTube channel, or if you're listening to it on the podcast on iTunes, either way, subscribe on YouTube. Click that subscribe button. Would really appreciate that. The same on the podcast as well. So let's get into the market movements today. And really, things have been going pretty nuts over the past 12 hours in the good way for a lot of people, especially if you are in on some of these coins, which I happen to have gotten into fairly recently within the past week or 2 weeks. So woke up this morning to a nice little Blockfolio app and was happy about that. So first off, let's take a look at Neo. Now, Neo has gone through the whole Ant Shares rebrand now, and it is getting, for all intents and purposes, pumped up pretty well. I mean, right now we're looking at on the Neo to ETH chart, things are within the past 24 hours or so, things have really kind of gone through the roof. You can see here from pretty much close to midnight of last night all the way down to 0.06, right up now to 0.95. So really close to a 50% gain within the past, I would say, maybe 12 hours or so, which has been pretty nuts. And that's going on top of what has also been a probably 3x plus, 300% plus gain over the past few weeks. I got in at Neo at $6. I took a little bit of profit when it was about 15 and moved that profit into OMG. And at this point in time, not looking like the best move, but it wasn't. Nothing has gone down for me with that. But Neo is showing some, I guess, kind of long-term legs here, which is pretty interesting to see. I think a lot of people are looking to maybe take some profits here. I'm going to keep it rolling. I don't have a terribly high amount in Neo. Obviously, I'm sure all of us wish we had more at this point in time and got in back when it was, $6, $7 US. And even when it dropped down to 3, although that would have been some fortuitous timing there. But Neo is really pumping hard, so that is one to take a look at. See if that can actually sustain this movement over the long term, or if this is just something that really is kind of in that in that kind of initial pump phase, and if it's going to pop back down close to what it did like when it went all the way up from $1 to $11 and then dropped all the way down to $3. So we'll really be able to see what happens with Neo in the future here. Now, another one that I'm keeping my eye on, OMG, which taking a look at Bittrex here, at the Bittrex charts, OMG has moved like crazy as well. Now, this after its ICO is at maybe 60 cents or so, and has really pumped up, especially trading versus Bitcoin and trading versus Ethereum. It has moved up pretty substantially from about 60 cents to maybe $4.50. So if you got in initially, if you got in on the OMG ICO, if you've held, or if you got in somewhat close to the beginning of this this token, I think you're looking at a pretty hefty profit, which is obviously great to see. This is another one right now. I have a small stake in OMG. I want to increase that, but it's kind of hard to sit here and look at buying when we're really at such a high point in these charts right now. I mean, we're pretty much close to the all-time highs of where things were. If we were looking back, late July, all the way up to maybe August 3rd, things were very, not super cheap, but things have kind of gone through the roof, and there was a nice dip here, which would have been a good time to buy. I bought in right about here or so with OMG, which is still paid off nicely, but I'd like to see it, potentially come back down for me to make another move into this before I buy at the top. So that is one thing I'm considering. OMG is a place where I'm looking to kind of continue to slowly buy on any dips that might come in. And then in addition to OMG, another one, so this is one I participated in during the ICO period and then bought a small stake after that. I think I talked about this recently, Civic being one that I wasn't like super pumped with about how it's kind of been moving along, but I woke up this morning, it was like, holy crap. It absolutely went through the roof over the past, pretty much, really like right when I went to bed last night at like 11 o'clock at night on the East Coast. It just shot through the roof and has somewhat sustained itself. It's up 75. It was up, I think, at one point close to 90% over the past 24 hours. So I actually had a sell order. Unfortunately, I had for part of my Civic, I had a sell order set at, right now it's trading at, in comparison to ETH, about 0.0012 right now. I had a sell order set at 0.0009. So that happened automatically overnight. I bought it down. That automatically triggered about a 25% gain for me, and I still have the vast majority of my Civic tokens from the ICO, but I had an automatic trade set up just to take some profit, get some more money back in ETH, and kind of throw that back in cold storage. So that is what I did there, but I missed out on a lot of profit. I missed out on 30, 40, 50% gain there because I had that automatic sell set up. But that's the good and bad part. I guaranteed myself 15% profit setting up an automatic sell, but on the other side of the house, I missed out on a bunch of profit on top of that. So you gotta, you have to pick and choose your battles. On the plus side, I still have a ton riding in, not a ton, but I still have a good amount riding in Civic, following that ICO. So I'm comfortable with that stake that I have there. And then I was able to move back, was able to, increase my Ethereum stack at the same time with that trade. So I'm happy about that. Outside of that, those are really the three big market movers that I would, keep an eye on today. Neo, OMG, Civic are really the three big ones. 10x Pay token is moving back up as well. So if you got in on that ICO, I would, keep looking at that. Everything else is, there's a couple other that have moved nicely. Some smaller coin like Storage or like Funfair that have moved up a good amount. Another one that I'm keeping an eye on right now, and I have as much of my stack in this as I'd really like, is Status, SNT. Status has not really moved. It's kind of gone down in comparison to Ethereum's rise up to the 300 plus range. And I have a good amount of Status from the ICO as well as from kind of increasing the stack here and there. And that's something that I'm looking to, I think, from what I've seen, and this is just kind of random observation, but there seems to be at any given time like 2 or 3 quote unquote altcoins pumping. You have Neo, you have OMG. Right now, Civic is pumping. There's probably going to be a point in time where Civic is going to go back down. OMG might go back down. Maybe not all the way. Probably not all the way, but might go back down. Neo might go back down, and the money from those coins is going to go into another altcoin. I think, or I'm hoping, because I'm keeping my holdings in Status right now. I'm hoping that Status is going to, perhaps after Civic goes up a little bit and starts to shave off some points, or after OMG people start taking money there, they're going to look for the next place of profit, because things can't, things might go up forever, but they might not, and people might be looking for that next point of profit. And I think a coin like a Status might be one of those where people look at Status and say, hey, this really hasn't moved upwards in probably a week or two, or 2 weeks or so. That could be a place where I think that might be one of those types of tokens where the fundamentals are strong, there's a good team around it, there's some solid ideas behind it, and I think that there's some overall like pretty good market sentiment about Status. The price just hasn't moved. and sometimes it just takes a little bit of a gain to kind of get that moving forward, and then it pops up. And that's where I'm kind of keeping some of my investments within that, or I have a good core holding there. And I think that might be, it doesn't necessarily have to be Status, it could be another coin. But when you look at it, there's a lot of tokens that have kind of been like that, where they've moved up. A couple tokens go up, people take profits, and they look for the next place to put those tokens, or they look for the next place to put those profits. And coin like Status could be the next one, because it's really been pretty flat, if not declining by a few percentage points every day, while things like Neo, OmiseGO, 10x, Civic now, Stratus a little bit, have moved up pretty nicely. So I'd keep an eye on that. Now, outside of the market recap, one thing that I thought was interesting, this was posted around Reddit a little bit, but this was an article. This is actually the number 3 article. Right now it's the number 4 article on Bloomberg. And as you're seeing this, it is what Goldman is telling the title is what Goldman is telling their big money clients about Bitcoin. So talking a little bit about the hype cycle, talking a little bit about kind of what it is. And the interesting thing about it is, so Goldman actually has analysts dedicated to cryptocurrency right now, which is a good thing. Whether or not your thoughts on Goldman Sachs and being a vampire squid, or the 2008 financial crisis, their impact in that, just big finance, whatever your thoughts on that. If big finance legitimately gets behind cryptocurrency, I can bet your bottom dollar that $120 billion market cap for all of these cryptocurrencies that we're looking at right now, you can bet your ass that is going to go upwards. Because if big institutions, if you're talking about companies like Goldman, if you're talking about JP Morgan Chase, if you're talking about investment banks, if you are talking about hedge funds, PE firms, whatever it might be, if you're talking about big money getting into the space, that's going to be a flood of money that is going to come in, and I would expect the market to go up significantly. Obviously, with regulation and things like that now, they're kind of holding back a little bit. But in this article, one of the things that you can take a look at, and even in the beginning, the first thing is whether or not this is what Goldman says, whether or not you believe in the merit of investing in cryptocurrencies, real dollars are being put to work here, and this warrants watching. Now, people, institutional investors that are chasing and cutting throats to get 10% return on investment are sitting on the sidelines, as normal Joe Schmoes like you and me are getting 200, 300, 400% ROI, and they're killing each other to get 10 or 12%. You can bet they're looking at that and thinking, how the hell can we get a piece of that? So that's something to keep an eye on. And then they've been talking in their memos to clients about how they can trade cryptocurrencies, what it's treated as. Is it a currency? Is it a commodity? What's the government's thoughts on it? And then two, outside of just Bitcoin, what is Ethereum? They had a pretty good explanation of Ethereum, I thought, that is good for newer investors, or just newer people to the cryptocurrency market. And then also what are ICOs as well. So a pretty, in my opinion, comprehensive oversight for their clients about what cryptocurrency is. And like I said, the big thing here, especially for this big money, is if you're playing in the stock market, and I have the majority of my money in the stock market, if you're playing in the stock market, 6 to 10% gains are incredible. 6 to 10% gain, not necessarily incredible, but the average stock market gain historically is around, let's say, 6 to 8% year over year. People are making 100, 100%, 200%, 1,000% return on investment in cryptocurrency. So if you're looking at that in comparison to some of the best, most elite hedge funds on the planet get billions and billions of dollars of money under management because they can consistently return, let's say, 12 or 14%, year over year. If you think they're not looking at this saying, wow, this is there's an opportunity here for us to make some money, I think you're kidding yourself. And if that money comes into here, it's going to lead to, I think, a pretty big spike. And also, if I see a lot of people always talking about market manipulation and this and that. If you think things are manipulated now, wait until big finance gets into the picture. That'll be nuts. But that's my kind of thought process on what Goldman is telling their clients about Bitcoin, about Ethereum, about ICOs. I think it's overall positive. The more big finance gets involved in this, the more government is going to kind of understand how things are going on. I think because big finance is going to work with government to make sure that they're making money. So that's something to keep note of. And then the last thing is Amazon hiring. This is from Amazon's official applicant tracking system, their official ATS system, and they're hiring you can see here, a blockchain solutions architect. They posted this yesterday, August 9th, looking for somebody in New York. And this is obviously an experienced professional, but looking into some of the details, strong knowledge of existing blockchain protocols, Sawtooth, DocChain, Ethereum, Iris, Blockstock. So looking with somebody who really understands blockchain and healthcare, finance, and hopefully looking for somebody with AWS, Amazon Web Services experience. I think this is overall a good sign. We've seen this happen time and time again over the past really month or so. These big companies that are hiring people with blockchain experience. And not only is Amazon probably one of the biggest companies on the planet from a market cap perspective, I think they're almost over $1 trillion, or getting within reach of potentially being $1 trillion company at a certain point in time. But if you're thinking about Amazon, if you're thinking about these other companies, the more talent that's in blockchain, whether or not it's a public blockchain like Ethereum, if it's a private blockchain, if it's something that interacts with both, the more talent that understands things like Ethereum, the more talent that is working with blockchain, the bigger the space is going to become, the more innovation that's going to go into this space. And overall, I think the more valuable these tokens and these companies are going to be. Obviously, not every token is going to succeed. A lot of these tokens that might be spiking right now are going to go down to shit in a year or two, or however long it might take. But the more investment, the more physical capital, the more intellectual capital, I guess I would say, not physical capital, intellectual capital that's going into the space. The more kids that are going from programming in these Ivy League schools to becoming blockchain solution architects at Amazon, that's ultimately going to be a good thing, I think, long term, because it's only going to continue to innovate the technology. So that's another thing to keep an eye on. Amazon isn't the only company, but this was one of the big recent ones, and obviously one of the leaders in the technology space with Amazon Web Services and their entire e-commerce business as a whole. So hopefully this was an insightful video for you. Again, I appreciate the time today. If you can subscribe to the channel, that would be fantastic. As well, if you're listening to this on the podcast, hit the subscribe button in iTunes. If you have any questions or if you have anything you want me to focus on for tomorrow's video, again, this is Crypto Bob's daily YouTube channel, trying to bring you just measured advice, measured thoughts on what's going on in cryptocurrency without being a jackass and doing crazy pump and dump schemes like a lot of these other YouTube jackasses kind of coming to you with a lot of false information. Want to just bring you what I think, as somebody who is kind of an average Joe with a little bit of a technical background, works at a Fortune 500 company and sees this stuff in action. Again, subscribe to the channel. Would really appreciate that. Any comments, hit that like button so I can get this channel out to more people. I appreciate the time. Crypto Bob signing out. Have a good one. Peace.